Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Malawi Today. Another great time. We look at those critical and very important issues happening in our country, Malawi. My name is Philip Zikanyanga, and today in the program, we'll be talking to Nyakan June. Nyakan June, she's the founder of Timeless Women of Wanda, an organization originally started from Kenya, but it has launched in Malawi, and she's in Malawi also. So today, we'll be hearing more about T-WOW and what they intend to do in Malawi for the coming years. Stay tuned. Nyakan, welcome in the program.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for hosting me.
First of all, briefly, tell us about yourself. Who is Nyakan June?
Nyakan June is a transformation agent for Africa. I'm a champion for delivering the right solutions to the continent. I believe and I know that my personal assignment as Nyakan is to unlock Africa's potential. And that's the human resource and natural resource potential in order to transform Africa socially and economically. So I'm really passionate about, all the things that I engage in and the things that we put together to be able to achieve that goal.
Why such a deep passion for Africa? What prompted you to develop such a deep passion to change the face of Africa?
I'd love to say immediately that because I'm an African and because Africa is so great and it's so rich and it's got such great diversity and I just love it. But that's really not the reason that drove me to be able to transform Africa. In 2004, I was having our second child. I was pregnant with our second child. And around the 3.5 month of pregnancy, I was diagnosed with a potentially terminal condition, medical condition. And that condition gave me about 5.5 months to live, right? And medically, biologically, scientifically, the situation, the way the things were, it was really all the odds against me and against the baby. But the baby had a higher chance to live than me. And the condition was a very complex condition that people didn't have a solution to.
Wow.
And so I was told, that my life was being extended by the pregnancy. So since I was 3.5 months pregnant, it was my prayer that I would be pregnant for as long as possible because the pregnancy was also very, very, very sensitive and precarious. So it was in my interest to stay alive by being pregnant. But if the baby, for any reason, was under distress and needed to be, born, by emergency, maybe even at 4 months or 5 months, that would be the last of my life.
Wow.
So during that time, when you're faced with a challenge so grave like that, you're forced to look at your life.
Exactly.
You're forced to look at the impact you're creating. You're forced to question the reasons why you're living, the reasons why you do the things you do every day, the reasons why you wake up to go to work. And at that time, I had to look at my movie. And as a top consultant, earning good money-ish, I was comfortable. I was traveling. I thought I was creating a lot of impact for businesses and multinational organizations across different sectors. And I was called an A-star, performer at work. And I had accolades in the human sense. But in the face of death, those things become really useless and nothing.
Exactly.
They're fleety. They don't make a lot of sense. They can't help you. And so I asked myself, so what was I chasing in life? In the face of death, what have I left? And it was very sad to look at that mirror. And while I thought I was creating impact, I realized I was chasing the wrong things. And what was glaring very loudly at me, and of course it was calling me to who I am called to be, was two things: Africa and people. Africa and people. And I kept asking myself, why Africa and why people? What's it? And clearly then I had missed the point. So I negotiated with the Maker, with my God, and I told him for two reasons, allow me to live. One, if at this point in my life I am glaring at my mirror and replaying my life, and all I see is that it seems like I missed the point because everything that I see I have done is nothing in the face of death. And yet I'm seeing two things glaring at me that I had not even been conscious about, that it means I missed the mark. And if you sent me on earth to do a certain assignment, and I didn't even know it, I was not even aware of it, it's in the face of death that it started to glare at me, then it's not in your interest to take me now. Okay? The second thing I said was, I need you to allow me to live so that I can find that thing get clarity, and spend the rest of my life doing it. I did live through that situation. That's a whole different story. It's a book that I have to write, which I'm writing. However, the baby is healthy.
Oh,
She's here with me in Malawi.
that's great.
She's 16 years old. And I am here. I went into development, discovered Africa, discovered the problems of Africa, the challenges of Africa. I had a zeal, a passion, insatiable drive to bring change to people on the continent and to bring solutions to the continent. So that's where the passion comes from.
So one wouldn't be wrong to say that the situation, to some extent, was a blessing in disguise.
It
Because,
was.
I guess that's a way now Tiwao had to born as well.
Yes, it propelled me to my destiny. It really propelled me. And how I came face to face with that challenge, because I had the two options, to sink or to swim, to fight or to flight, yeah, to live or to die. And I gathered all my self-will and connected to the word of God and strength, spiritual strength, to overcome the physical and human challenge that no one can solve in order to live through that. But yes, when I'm asked what was one of the most profound moments in your life, it was that year and that situation.
When was that?
That was in 2004.
2004.
Yes.
Great. So when was Timeless Women of Wonder Foundation established again?
It was born almost 6 years after that,
Okay.
because I had this big drive to go into development. I, just like many people, I believe that we had to work and you have to be in a job and you make a livelihood from a job. So my model and my thoughts of how I was going to bring a solution to Africa and the people was to get a job where millions of people are suffering and they're in Africa. So I got a job in the development sector with an NGO, and I really immersed myself in working with communities, looking at the solutions, finding out what the problems are, looking at how government, trying to influence the way we're doing things in development, because I have a private sector background.
Okay.
I'm a computer scientist and business process reengineering person. So my strength is to re-engineer processes, to ask how we're doing things and to turn them around, okay, for impact. So I brought that thinking into development. And the more I was questioning things and trying to see what are the best ways we need to work that will bring impact to the people, the more I realized that Africa, one, wasn't poor. The more I realized that Africa is working disjointedly, government is eradicating poverty on its own, private development, NGOs are doing poverty eradication on their own, private sector is looking at money. They don't even care about solving problems through their enterprises. I was in private sector, so I know.
So the basic idea is to consolidate ideas from the private, public, and NGO sector.
Absolutely, and bring synergies, bring collaboration. And then number two, I realized we complicate things too much, so we end up not implementing things. So Africa is left with a lot of talent, a lot of potential, but we're not unlocking it. We're not executing the program that are needed to be executed. And so the second thing I felt was we need to simplify and execute. We need to simplify and execute real programs that will bring change to the ground. And then the third thing is we work in a marginalized manner. Most of our demographic is outside of the equation of development, women and youth. So, I also felt that it's good that if Africa is going to be prosperous in our generation and we leave prosperity that will be generational, the ones after us will find it, is to find an inclusive approach. Hence now why we started Timeless Women of Wonder. It's driving Africa's social and economic transformation and driving it through women in partnership with men and in a collaborative manner with all the sectors. Before we go
for a short break, I just want to get a picture. Tiwao, sounding a bit Greek to most Malawians.
Yes.
Tell us, what is it all about?
Yeah, it sounds Greek, right? It's a Timeless Women of Wonder. We felt that women have great potential, and we need to create a platform and an enabling environment for women to thrive. So it's to look at the inside, to inspire her, and then to empower her, and then to support her, and bring her into the matters of development, okay? To join the men and other people and other players in the matters of development. All right? So, and then, we want, when everybody sees, if you look at the acronyms actually of TWOW, which is Timeless Women of Wonder, we want to empower women to do wonders in all aspects of their lives, in the family, in the community, in business, in the marketplace, in government, whatever. And coincidentally, when you see things that are magnificent, what do you say? You say, wow,
Exactly.
And that's the kind of expression that we want the women to behold of themselves.
The amusement.
Government to behold of transformation that they see with what we're doing with Timeless, the business sector can see and feel and keep saying, wow, this is really our solution. This is really what we're doing. And true impact. So Timeless is an organization that's Pan-African. It's driving socioeconomic change for everybody, but we're doing it inclusively through women. And we drive it in partnership with all the key stakeholders, men and everything. Men is so important to talk about, because if you're going to be having any strategy where you're involving women or you're operating primarily through women, you must find a way to bring the voice and the participation of men. Otherwise, they become barriers. You threaten the ecosystem and the harmony of community. What is not understood is fought. So instead of helping women to grow, if men don't understand why it is that we are trying to empower women to come and join them, they will close the doors. And they're mostly the ones who are the gatekeepers in government, in politics, in culture, in a religion. So we have seen a lot of successes in the rapid progress of our impacts because of our strategy to work with men. Yeah.
We have to go for a short break, Nyakan.
Yes.
In case you are just joining us, we are right inside Malawi today. And as I said earlier on, we are talking to Nyakan June, CEO and founder of Timeless Women of Wonder Foundation, TWOW. We'll be back shortly after this break. Welcome back. We are continuing with the program. My name is Philip Zikanyanga, and as I said, we are talking to Nyakan June, founder of TWOW. She's in Malawi. On Saturday, she had a very busy day launching the organization in Malawi. You have explained a bit of TWOW, Nyakan, but before we go into further details, I want to appreciate from you. You have traveled across Africa and even beyond Africa.
Yes.
What are the common challenges or common problems which women are facing?
Yes, that's a good question, because in my travel, in our experience, there are some very common experiences and challenges that we have observed across the board. One, I'd start with mindset. The mindset that women have sometimes to uptake opportunities that are before them. They always feel it's for men. They may feel it's hard. They may feel that they don't belong there. They lack confidence to take up opportunities that are before them. Okay, so building confidence and also taking up opportunities and the mindset is common across the board. It's just the dynamic that might be different, but that's common. The second thing is we've noticed that the impact of unfavorable cultural practices, all right, has a high impact across the board for women in Africa, especially. And so you find culture. There's good things in culture, but there's some unfavorable practices that work against, the optimal, the optimal, engagement and contribution of women in matters of development. So that is across the board that we've observed in Africa. Political goodwill, where there is political goodwill, women thrive. Where there isn't political goodwill, women don't thrive. We've observed that across the board. And then women have a very unique vulnerability economically. They're quite disadvantaged in terms of like getting access to finance because they don't own land, they don't own collateral, they don't own security that they can access money. So their growth, especially in business and in financial and investment matters, is quite restricted. Because they have already things working against them. Most land is owned by men, security, collateral, they don't have it and all that. And so either they have to go and make partnerships with their brothers, their husbands, or rather men, so that they can be able to access finance, which is across the board, and it's a bit of a challenge. Patriarchy is a strong, thing that we're dealing with in Africa, because the matters of patriarchy can in some situations create oppressive environments for women to thrive. So those are some of the things that we have observed. And GBV is strange. That's something that's a paradox. The gender-based violence is a matter of concern across the board, across the countries. It's across, whether it's a Muslim country, whether it's a Christian country, whether it is the age differences is not making a difference, and it's rising. It's on the rise. So that's something that's a bit concerning, that we need to also pay attention and look at what's happening and maybe the factors that are contributing to that, and see what it is that we need to do.
So quite interesting. Coming back to TWOW in Malawi, what is it that TWOW wants to do in Malawi? I know the expectations are just too much
Yes.
from Malawians, and particularly those who have heard of Tiwa before.
Yes. Awesome question. One of the things that I like to say is that Tiwa recognizes that we are not the only solution to Africa's problems, and we're not the only people who have the gift to unlock Africa's potential. There's lots of players doing the different things and doing their part. We have chosen to focus on leadership and socioeconomic development, socioeconomic transformation. So you'll find we can play into many different things. We will be definitely doing some advocacy work, some policy work, obviously, because it's important to be able to invest in enabling environment that can allow people to thrive socially and economically. Those things, but our focus, where you will see Tiwa really bringing change, is we have, over the past many years, mastered the blueprints and the business models that will actually break people out of poverty. And we want to be able to give tangible transformation, socially and economically, solving problems, creating wealth, help people with skills, capacity building,
So
mindset transformation.
maybe before you
Yes.
proceed, breaking the chains of poverty. How do you do that? Because poverty seems to be so real in Africa, and
Yes.
abject poverty so deep.
Yes. How do we break the chains of poverty? First of all, eradicating the poverty mindset. Because once you understand where poverty is coming from, then you need to then deal with the mindset. And Africa, our observation is it is having a mindset challenge. Poverty, we've got all the wealth, we've got resources, we have natural abilities, but the problem is we are not understanding it. And the systems that have been put in place that are sort of suppressing that potential. So eradicating that poverty mindset. The second thing is to look at empowerment. Because it's one thing to realign the mindset. The next thing is now what do you put inside, and empower that person to create a livelihood that's healthy, right? So what we need to do is, what we are doing at Tiwa then is we bring life skills and technical skills that can allow the women to go out and either get jobs or start businesses. The third area is that we support them. We don't just leave them there. We support by monitoring how they're going on, and analyzing the successes, the challenges, and going ahead to give them support where there's challenge and to increase their gains. Matters of mentorship, matters of access to finance, access to markets, access to opportunities, we then put efforts around that to help them to thrive. Okay? So in terms of what are we expecting for Malawi, and there's so much appetite and whatever, is a true transformation, true impact, definitely a change in mindset of vibrant people who are inspired and want to contribute towards Malawi's development, right? But also moving to action. Stop complaining, move to action. And then helping them to move to that action by skilling them, by working with them, by supporting them.
How will Malawians, particularly the women, be able to access this platform in Malawi?
Yes, we have.
I know it has just started, but
Yes.
still, I'm sure you have the modalities, the mechanism in place,
Absolutely.
how people will be accessing this
Yes.
huge platform.
Yes. So we've officially launched Tiwa Malawi on the 3rd of October, 2020. That was last Saturday. And we didn't wait for a physical launch and official in order to start doing work in Malawi. If you have a vision and an idea, you have to start it anyway. So we already started work in Malawi, early this year. And we've got programs already running. We have a country director, a very able leader, passionate about transformation, passionate about the change, and really understands the vision very well. Her name is Miss Nasrin Konat, and she's our country director here. She has a team that works with her here to support all the things we want to do here. Our offices will be accessible through our website. If people want to come, they just go to the website, which is www.twowafrica.com. Okay, and you'll find all the details there. When you click on the Malawi page, you'll find all the information, and you can access our people. You can go to our Facebook page, which is at Tiwa Africa. You can go to our Twitter, which is at Tiwa Africa. We're quite accessible. Yes.
As we are concluding, one good news. In February, there is a conference coming to be hosted by Malawi.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more briefly about that conference as we are concluding.
Awesome. Yes, every February since 2014, Timeless hosts an annual global platform, a conference that brings global leaders from all over. There are men and women, government leaders, ministers, presidents, vice presidents, diplomats, corporate CEOs, business leaders, and lots of women who are our delegates and our participants into a 2 or 3 day forum where we learn, we network, we share knowledge, we build partnerships, we trade, and we build programs that now we continue to empower people in Africa, but primarily in the country where it's been hosted. Okay, the 7th annual conference is actually Malawi. Yeah, it's going to take place on the 19th and 20th of February here in Malawi at the Bingu Mutharika Convention Center. So I invite everybody to connect, go to the website, Google timelessconference.com, go there, register, book your seat early, and be part of the change. You know, you get to learn and connect and partner with people from all over, funders, partners, great women, traders, opportunities, and your knowledge is increased. Your networks are increased. Yeah.
Nyakan, thank you very much. I
You're
wish
most
we had more
welcome.
time.
Yes.
But we have to stop there for today.
Absolutely.
I'm afraid we'll have to stop there for
Yeah.
today. And as I
Yes.
said,
Yes.
I've been talking to Nyakan June, CEO of Tiwao, an organization started from Kenya, but now it has launched in Malawi. My name is Philip Siganyanga. Till the next edition, bye for now. Stay blessed.